The Power Play Post Show is on the air, covering minor league hockey since 2003, and now covering the Binghamton Black Bears with news, reactions, and in-depth interviews only heard here. And now, from the Box Studios in Kirkwood, New York, here are your hosts of the Power Play Post Show, Bob Howard and Taylor Welch.
And hello, everybody. Welcome to another edition of the Power Play Post Show. This is the show for July 16th, 2026. This is season 15, episode number 79, and episode number 593 in the long-running podcast that is the Power Play Post Show. Hello, everyone. Welcome to another show. Listen, I promised myself we would do shows, every other week during the summer. And then I go and I do an interview with Connor McAnanama that goes an hour and 20 minutes. And so we break it up into two parts. And then, of course, the Black Bears start signing players left and right. And there's a lot more to talk about and some interesting stuff to talk about. And so Taylor and I are breaking my rule. Well, I'm breaking the rule. Taylor just comes along and she enjoys the ride. At least I hope she does. I mean, she's still doing it, so she must enjoy something about this. Either way, I am Bob Howard. She is
Taylor Welch.
And Taylor, am I wrong? You still enjoy this a little bit, right?
Oh, it's definitely a lot of fun, especially because you and I just figured out that we share the same brain, which is interesting.
Yeah,
because something that we always talk about is how much we agree, but then there are times where we sort of agree, and I don't know. It's definitely, we always have some interesting conversations, but the one that we're going to have in a little bit is pretty funny, in my opinion.
No, me too, because I think of these small little things. But yeah, the Black Bears have signed 4 players, 2 new rookies, so we have now 6 rookies that Brant Sherwood has signed. And then we also have signed 2 returning players. And, I'm happy for both of those returning players to have them back. I know you are as well. We'll talk about that. We also have an interview that Brant Sherwood did on Monday night on another podcast. And we got some details on that, which is really what I want to get into first. And Taylor, what's interesting about this is that he indicated that he still had an option in the ECHL that he's waiting to hear back on. So his status is still unknown, but he might know by the end of this week how that deal might happen or may not happen and whatnot. But he says in the interview 3 times that he more than likely will be the head coach of the Binghamton Black Bears coming into this next season. However, there still is that little iron in the fire in the ECHL.
I mean, I definitely don't blame him for trying to keep that option open. We got to kind of keep one foot in the door at all times. It seems like,
right.
Hockey's a very, fast-paced game, and it seems like it's a very fast-paced in every direction, not just playing the game on the ice itself. But, there's a lot of moving parts at all times, and especially it seems every league that is involved with hockey right now has so many moving parts happening because there's new teams getting added, there's new coaches, there's people retiring. It just seems like, because I really don't pay too much attention to other leagues. Sure. And, with a couple of the teams going to the SPHL and the FPHL bringing in quite a few new teams and all this talk about the ECHL, it's crazy like how connected everything is, but at the same time, it isn't.
Yeah, especially when it comes to single-A hockey and affiliated hockey, which is the ECHL, the AHL, and the NHL. That's all affiliated with each other in some way, fashion, or form. Or single-A hockey, which is the SPHL and the FPHL, is not. And yet, everybody who's in the single-A hockey would really love to get to the affiliated hockey, which is the ECHL and above. And, of course, that's what Brant is trying to do. And it's okay. We all know that Brant Sherwood's goal and dream in life would be to coach in the NHL. And he has a lot of hard work in front of him to be able to still do that. But I think that by the end of this week, I think it's really the deadline, which would be Friday, maybe even Saturday. He's going to know the answer. Andreas will know the answer, and they'll make an announcement when they're ready to do so. Now, I wrote an article already about him coming back, so I hope I don't have to change it to the article of him not coming back and wishing him well going on into the future, because I don't want to have to rewrite that thing, because I took some serious time to write it, and it's a good piece. So hopefully he comes back. I know that's being selfish because I'm lazy, but it is what it is. Now
I wouldn't really call it lazy. I think it's just more looking into the future and being hopeful. I mean, that's how I would look at it.
Yeah, I want to work with him for another year. I'll be perfectly honest with you.
I think a lot of people do.
No, I know a lot of people. I mean, listen, me as a fan, yes, I want him to come back, and I want to see him coach a team. And listen, the next point we're going to talk about that he said on the show, on this podcast on Monday, is very important. But I do want to work with him again, not just because I think he can help us win, but at the same time, he's a nice guy. He's easy to talk to. I've talked to a lot of head coaches in the Binghamton area and just across the league. Some of them are easy and good to talk to, and some of them are tough. The AHL guys were tough to talk to sometimes. And Brant is not that guy. He is a guy that has got an open door policy for definitely me and for you in the Power Play Post Show. And I really appreciate that. I don't want that to go away. And, and I think I have started to build a good relationship with John Quinville, which will hopefully allow me to have a similar relationship. I mean, Q and Sherwood are a little bit different as personalities and human beings. So it will be a little bit different. But I want, listen, if he comes back for another year, makes Bob happy. It makes the fans happy. It makes everybody happy. And it'll probably bring back more returning players as well. And I think that's something that's very important. But Taylor, he did state in the podcast, and I disagree with him a little bit on this, and I want to get your opinion. He stated that the Black Bears were not in a rebuilding stage. And I disagree with this a little bit because I do believe that when you've already signed 6 rookies, and you probably got a few more that are probably coming, you're going to have a lot of guys who are already not here. You have to rebuild the leadership core of this team because he did mention, and we'll talk about this in another line item here in a second, Dan Stone is likely done. That's a guy who had an A. You have Tyson Kirkby, who's been the captain the last 3 years. He's gone. He's off to Mid-South. You have 2 very solid utility type of players with CC and Emery gone. Mac Jansen is not coming back. And then there's other people as well. I personally have no problem saying that Binghamton is in a rebuilding stage, but he did indicate he doesn't believe they're in a rebuilding stage. Your thoughts?
I agree and disagree with it for similar reasons. I get what Brant is saying. And especially if you just kind of look at the perspective of things, you have Mid-South who has to start from brand spanking new. They're starting from scratch. They have no team and they have to build something. Where you look at us and we are missing, key players like Tyson Kirkby, who has been, the face of the Black Bears for the last several years. And, he was one of the first signees the last couple of years. So it's definitely, I can look at that and say, it's hard to look at that and, not see Tyson's name and see rookies being signed on. But another thing that, Brant had talked about in that interview was, the first season, they only had a couple guys returning and they had 16 rookies.
Yeah.
And he's like, we went on to win it all. So in Brant's eyes, it's not about the returning players that are coming back or not coming back. That's going to, be the rebuilding. It's more like the whole locker room and everything that is involved with that, which he's already established and built here in Binghamton. So it's very easy for him to go in there and bring in new guys and already have something established and set in stone. And not to make a pun there, or anything, indicated about stone, but he already has a system in place and he knows what he's looking for. And he's done the recruitment for the last several years and brought in so many amazing players that even when they're not on the Black Bears, they're most likely in another team throughout the FPHL. So for I see his viewpoint, and that's kind of where I'm basing it off of, is that's maybe where he's thinking, is that
Sure.
it's not so much about who's coming back as much as it is, the team itself that's going to be created compared to, Mid-South or the Minnesota team that have to start from brand spanking new and actually build something. And you kind of have to, and I mean, he makes a point to talk about, Mid-South is starting off great, bringing in Tyson and Cervoni and Emery, taking them from Binghamton is already a really good base to kind of start and be able to form what we formed here in Binghamton.
Sure.
So it's definitely good for them, but that right there is a building in itself, where rebuilding here, it doesn't necessarily, I don't see it happening just because Brant's already built what he's built here in Binghamton, and that's not going to change just because a couple guys aren't coming back.
Okay. I will give Brant that. I'll give you that. That was very well said. And no, seriously, I'll give you guys both that. If Brant comes back, I'm 100% on board with what you guys are saying. You kind of sold me on that, okay? If he doesn't come back and Q has to take over, or Q does take over, then I'm going to label this a rebuilding year for the Binghamton Black Bears, because it won't be Brant in charge anymore. It won't be Brant setting up the way this team is going to be. It's going to be brand new with John Quinville. Now, he might adapt some of the things that Brant Sherwood has done, and hopefully Brant learned a little bit from Q, and hopefully Q's learned a little bit from Brant. I think that's what they both wanted when they went into last season together, was to learn from each other, because I think both could probably learn from each other. But I think if Brant comes back, I'll give you and Brant that, that respect of, yes, okay, it's not a rebuilding, or we're not in a rebuilding stage. However, if Brant doesn't come back, I think I'm going to lean towards more that we got to rebuild things a little bit, see what Q's going to be able to put together on the ice. He's got to win the players over, number one. Number two, he's got to implement systems that guys in single A are going to be able to follow and adapt to and learn and buy into and execute very well. That's a very hard thing to do. And Q's going to have some majorly high expectations of players. Now, this all could be for naught, and Brant could be back, and we could know that by sometime next week. I guess we'll definitely see. But Taylor, very well said. And if Brant comes back, I'm on your guys' side completely.
Well, and I mean, I think your point is fair, is, if Brant comes back, then, kind of agreeing with that. But on, the other end of that, I also completely understand, where you're coming from, or even fans, even so much to say is like, well, we are without Tyson and Cervoni and Emery because they went to Mid-South. Connor McAnanama, who's, been the backbone for a couple of years, he's moving on.
Yep.
Got a couple guys like, as he indicated, Stone might not be coming back, and maybe a couple others might not come back, because who knows what they might end up doing.
Yeah.
So I can definitely see like the fans, thinking that it could be rebuilding, because it seems like, we've had so many of these faces for so many years, and now we're losing quite a few of them. So I can definitely understand, both sides of that. But I had to think like what I thought Brant would be thinking of in that moment, and kind of listening to what he said in that interview, and, just the thought of building something, not specifically that's player form, but what you create in the locker room to make these players want to come. And, the way that he talks about recruiting and, making sure you don't burn any bridges, and making sure, that as players move on, like, you're taking care of them and doing what's, their best interest, which I've always, commended Brant for doing, is, looking out for these players and getting them to where they want to go, even if that means they're not going to be a Black Bear.
Yeah.
So for me, it was more like just thinking of what he's built compared to what the, not just looking at the roster, if that makes sense.
No, it does. It does. Okay. So our final point here with Brant's interview from Monday night, he indicated that Stone was likely done. There's one of the leadership guys, obviously, in the defense. And he made this comment, which I thought was very interesting. He hopes to get Weber back in a weekend warrior type of role, meaning that right now, fans, if you don't know, Dan Weber has got a full-time job. He's working, just like Connor Smith got a job. just like a couple other guys have gotten jobs and are working full time during the week, Dan Weber has done that. And I'm not going to tell you where he's working. I'm not going to tell you where. I'm just going to tell you that he is got a full-time job. But Brant did mention on the interview that he was hoping to get him as a weekend warrior role, but that he also felt, and I think there's a asterisk next to this next point, he felt that Sargis and Stubbs would be coming back. Now, here's my thought process. I think Sargis and Stubbs comes back if Brant Sherwood is the head coach of the Binghamton Black Bears. I don't know if necessarily they come back if he's not.
I definitely get that. I would have thought, so out of the 4 names mentioned, I definitely thought, the way this season went, the way the last couple seasons went, that, Stone, I definitely understand him wanting to hang it up or do something else. I get it.
No, that guy can play for another.
I definitely thought that, Sargis and Stubbs could be on the same wavelength as Stone and even Weber, because he's got, life things happen and, maybe they want to move on with that. Like, I definitely get all of it, but at the same time, I'm like, well, how nice would it be if all of them came back?
Right.
We got some of them to come back. And see, I definitely think the Brant factor, I guess is what I'm going to call it. I think if the Brant factor is there, I think we get more returning players than not.
I got to be honest with you. I'm surprised about Stone. He's the one when I heard about Stone very, very quickly after the celebration that he was hanging them up. And I'm like, or likely hanging them up. I will say likely at this point, because it's like, all right, we don't know 100%, but
I know we'll say that he is, and then he'll come back.
Well, Brant,
he'll pull a Kyle Steffen on us.
Yeah, well, no, Dan Stone, you're not invited on the show until I know you're not coming back. Dan can come back on the show when I know officially he's retired, because I'm not, I don't know, maybe that means 2 years from now, because the way Connor Smith and Kyle Steffen did it. I mean, Kyle, it took only like 6 months and he came back. Connor took another year and a half. But my point is this. I really thought Stone could play for another couple years. I thought he's such a great player. I think he's excellent as a defenseman. And I think Dan Weber's the same way. I'm a little disappointed. When I see him, man, I'm going to just punch him in the shoulder and go, really? Really? Come on. You can't play. So hopefully he does come back as a weekend warrior role. But it was interesting. I thought it was a very interesting interview with Brant. He gave away a few details on a couple things that we just wanted to bring up here and talk about. Anything else from the interview? Did you, because you listened to probably most of it, right?
I got, I think, a little more than halfway before I was cut off and had to, actually go do some work. But I got through like the recruiting process and, like what he looks for and that type of thing. And it, again, just, it makes me like really appreciate, because not all coaches, really care about the players on their team and, are really actually looking out for them. And I think, truthfully, I think it's probably easier to coach in like the NHL or the AHL compared to the ECHL. To get his foot in the door. And I feel like that's probably why there's such a roadblock to get into the ECHL for anybody. Because you have the, and Connor even talks about this a little bit in his interview in the second part of the interview.
What? He does?
Later on. Is just like how different the ECHL is and just like how much harder it is for, certain people to be there. And I feel like that's, probably why it's so much harder and maybe why like it's taking longer for Brant to kind of get his foot in the door there. I almost feel like he just needs to go for an NHL team and hope he gets like shoved down to an AHL team or something. Like, I just feel like it would be so much easier because you don't have so many, variables going on as you do.
Yeah.
But
yeah, the ECHL.
That's just my opinion.
No, understandable. The ECHL, I've said it many times, it is the toughest league to either coach in, run a team in, be a player in. It is the in-between of all in-between when it comes to the leagues because of financials and so many other parts. It's a very difficult league to take care, to be a part of. All right. Let's get into the must-reads, and then we'll get into all the new signings and talk about the couple of returning players as well. The Power Play Post is available on all major podcast platforms, including Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Pocket Cast, YouTube, and Amazon Music, plus iHeartRadio. Just search Power Play Post Show on your favorite app, and don't forget to subscribe. Join the conversation on Facebook. Search Power Play Post Show and become part of our community. Looking for everything Binghamton Hockey? Visit binghamtonhockey.net, your go-to source for stats, history, and all things Binghamton Hockey. And coming up on this episode of the Power Play Post Show, three-time Commissioner's Cup goaltender Connor McAnanama, part 2 of the interview. And Taylor, if there's one thing you could highlight to preview this interview, what would be the one thing that you would say about the second part?
You get to hear some funny things about other players, and you get to hear some pretty serious things about Connor McAnanama.
Very good. Very good. All right.
Power Play Post Show fans, do us a quick favor. If you're watching on YouTube, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and ring that notification bell so you never miss an episode of the show. If you're listening on Spotify, make sure you're following the podcast and leave us a rating. It's completely free to do. It takes 2 seconds. It tells YouTube and Spotify to push the show out to more Binghamton Black Bear fans and more hockey fans just like you. Drop a comment too. We read them and we love hearing from you.
Okay, so Taylor, let's get into these signings, because we do have 4 signings that have happened since last Thursday, since we debuted the part 1 of the Connor McAnanama interview. There's been 4 signings since then. Now, we knew about Cheech on the same day that we knew about Bondarenko, because they just got, for some reason, they were announced at the same time. I don't know why, but let's go into it.
I was honestly hoping that Bondarenko was going to be the first one announced. I've been waiting for this one for a while. I think a couple other people have too. And I really probably shouldn't choose favorites, but I mean, he was my poster guinea pig. And
what?
Yeah, I don't. Bondarenko has been like my favorite player since the very beginning of last season. And then, I had a couple other players like working their way up there, trying to, like the interviews that I had. It's very hard to knock Bondarenko out, because I mean, again, poster guinea pig, definitely. The way they treated me was fantastic, and I can't ever,
Absolutely.
I will never forget that moment.
Well, I'm going to say this right now before you even read this next part. I'm so glad that Yvonne, Katie, and the kids are back for one more season. To me, that's awesome. They're great people. I hope they stay. I hope they're staying in the area during the summertime, and maybe going to Texas to visit her family for a little bit. But I hope they're staying in the area because, first of all, I really truly think that it's a cute little family, great people. Both he and Katie are just awesome.
Plus the suits.
Oh, yes, the suits. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay, we're going off track a little bit.
No, but his suits do remind me of like something from the 70s, early 80s. The polyester suits. Oh, awesome. I love them, actually.
Anywho, the first returning player, the FPHL Forward of the Year, Ivan Bondarenko. Bondarenko concluded his first year in Binghamton with a buffet of accolades. I'm pretty sure you did that one on purpose. You just liked how it sounded, didn't you? He set the single season assist record with 77 and finished for a team high in points with 98. He was voted the Binghamton Hockey Booster Club Player of the Year. During the regular season, Yvonne had 15 games with 3+ points and 20 straight games with an assist. Finally, Bondarenko was named FPHL Forward of the Year by the league office. In the postseason, Bondarenko continued to lead the way for the Black Bears, a true distributor of the puck. He had 11 assists across 9 playoff games for the Black Bears, including a 3-assist night in Game 3 versus the PD Ice Cats. Now, this is where I read this earlier, and my dyslexia kicked in, and I was like, he was not the only player. And it didn't, I struggled so bad through this part. So I was like, Ramakers also played in all the games, but Bondarenko was the only player for the organization to appear in all 65 combined games this season en route to winning his first Commissioner Cups in his first season. And earlier I read that as 56, and I was not getting the combined, and I was like, Ramakers played in all 56 games.
He did.
But no, Ramakers missed one playoff game.
He did. He missed one playoff game. Again, Taylor, I'm just very happy that, Yvonne is back. I think he could be a captain. If Stubbsy doesn't come back, I think Stubbs would be the captain. I think Bondarenko would definitely wear an A. At this point, I don't know who would be the other alternate captain unless we find out more returning players. But 100%, there's another player. There's a rookie from last year I hope comes back, and that's Matt York, the defenseman. So I hope, for some reason, I just feel like he's the type of guy that could also have an A on his jersey. Just something about him, his lineage, his father playing in the NHL. I just think there's probably some captain-type leadership qualities in him. But your final thoughts on Bondarenko coming back?
I'm just very happy about it. Meeting his family, we've met quite a few families, but the way the Bondarenkos, carry themselves and the way that they're just so thankful. And, the whole like running thing that I had with him and Dominic Tomei where, the poster that I made for them at the end of the year, for being impact players, they're just awesome people. And to kind of jump back on the point about, captain and, wearing an A and stuff, I think that's probably one of the hardest decisions that Brant has to make when it comes to, that type of thing, just because when you're so good at recruiting guys that are just all around awesome people, it's really hard to just give somebody an A. And I know last year he joked that probably everybody on the team could wear one, and they went to Watertown and they had stitched on a couple because none of the other guys that had an A were actually playing in those games. So it's so interesting to kind of think about that, because I know I've seen a couple comments about Bondarenko coming back, and a lot of people are hoping that he wears the C, but at the same time, if you have somebody like Stubbs coming back, or, if Yates comes back or something, it's just, there's so many variables, and it'll definitely be interesting, but I truly think that he'll end up with a letter. I just don't know which one. Yeah.
We don't know if Gavin's coming back, Kyle Steffen's going to come back. There are definitely guys who could wear a letter if they came back, depending on who else is here. Very tough decision for Brant Sherwood. But I think a lot of those guys would all stick up for each other, and that's the important part of that. Okay, Cheechoo Lathlin returns to the Black Bears. Cheechoo joins Ivan Bondarenko as members who have re-signed for the 26-27 season from last year's Commissioner's Cup squad. Lathlin played in 33 games during the regular season last year and finished with a plus 13 rating. He finished the regular season on 16 with only 16 penalty minutes and 1 goal and 4 assists. In the playoffs, Cheechoo played in 4 games and tallied 1 assist in Game 3 of the Commissioner Cup Finals against the PD Ice Cats. Lathlin is the second defenseman added to the roster for the training camp this October, along with rookie Marquise Brown. And no, folks, he did not sign with the Blue Ridge Bobcats. He definitely signed with Binghamton, even though the transaction page is wrong. And let's just not forget, because it's the thing we talked about the most in one of the episodes, I think March 8th or March 9th or 10th, that one of those episodes there about Cheechoo's first goal of the season on March 7th, where Gavin Yates, I think, was more excited and jumping up and down than Cheech was.
I'm pretty sure everybody was more excited than Cheech was. Like, I'm pretty sure the way that the fans reacted and the bench reacted, I can only imagine what was going through, like, Watertown's, their fans, what was going through their head or anything like that. They're probably like, you guys have scored, a bunch of other goals, but this one's somehow important. And, I think that's a vivid play that's kind of always going to come to mind when everybody thinks of Cheech. And I remember Brant saying the one thing he wanted for Christmas was for him to get a goal. And it only took a couple months after that for it to happen. But
yeah, it did.
Hopefully, Stubbs had a rough year the first year he came in. It took him a while to get that monkey off his back. So I'm hoping Cheech has a much easier year getting a goal.
I've told Cheech this privately, and I'll tell the fans this. One of the things that Cheech had a hard time with was confidence. When he played junior A hockey before he came to the Black Bears, he was one of the top dogs. He was one of the guys who was offensively very gifted, and there is stuff inside of Cheech we have not seen yet. And I think he had a little bit of a confidence issue last year, probably up until he finally scored that goal, and that probably helped out a little bit. But unfortunately, you create some bad habits based on not scoring and not doing the things that you're used to do. And so I'm hoping that when Cheech comes in this upcoming year, that he just gets into the right mindset of like, listen, I got to take more shots, because he's a shooting defenseman. He's definitely going to be a guy who's going to, or should be taking more shots than he was last year. When he comes into the zone, be a little bit more confident where he is positioned on the ice and take a shot. So hopefully Cheech will come in this upcoming season a little bit, better, confidence wise. And once he does, I think he'll be fine. But now we have a naming issue that we got to talk about here. And Taylor, take it away.
So our next rookie that is going to join the Black Bears, before we started recording, I told Bobby that until the player tells me or Frank Perney says his name, because he talks to the players about how they say their names.
Yep.
This next player is definitely going to be Ivan, not Ivan.
Are you sure?
Just so I can differentiate between the two, because if you start saying it to me, I'm gonna get very confused unless we just go last names. But the next rookie is Russian-born Ivan Kuligin joins the Black Bears. Ivan is the 5th rookie player and 4th forward to sign ahead of training camp this fall. He joins countryman Ivan Bondarenko as the 2nd Russian-born forward with the Black Bears.
Why wouldn't they say the name? Why wouldn't they say the name the same way?
Listen, I always thought if you watch movies that deal with people from Russia and their name is Ivan, they just go by Ivan.
That's what I thought too.
And maybe that's my issue, is that I'm basing it off of movies. And I kind of hope that he goes by Ivan, just because I think it would be funny
to have an Ivan and an Ivan on the same team.
Yeah, just because, if they're both from Russia, but they're said differently, I think it would just be very interesting. Because it just kind of...
I want to know if his nickname is Vana or Vina.
See, maybe his nickname's going to be completely different.
It probably is. We got to get him on the show as soon as possible. We have to have these answers. These answers are very, very important.
Well, I mean, hopefully he speaks English, because it doesn't sound like he's been over here for very long. So
crap.
Ivan's been here a little bit longer. So
yes, and Ivan's
maybe you can have him translate for you.
Oh, that would be great. Yeah.
Our Russian spy videos would be real interesting.
Oh my God. Yeah. Cause they could probably go back and forth, but wouldn't it be great if I had to sit down and I was doing an interview with Kuligin, and literally I have to ask the question. Ivan has to say it in Russian to Ivan. Ivan has to say it back to Ivan in Russian, and then Ivan gives me the answer. That would be so interesting.
It would definitely be funny. It would definitely be an interesting show. It'd probably be a really long show, but it would be interesting.
Well, I don't know if I would run all the translation.
Oh, why not?
That's true. That would be kind of fun. All right, let's finish with this.
Kuligin is native to Vladimir, Russia, but has been playing hockey in North America since the 2019-2020 season. In the last 2 years, Kuligin was a member of the New Jersey 87's ECHL organization. During those 2 campaigns, Ivan appeared in 99 games and recorded 52 goals, 4th in the ECHL, and 54 assists.
It's great numbers.
Most recently, yeah, it sounds like Ivan. I'm struggling to keep them separate. It's so, I'm pausing each time I go to say his name, because I know I'm going to mess it up one of these times. Most recently, Kuligin led the 87s in points during the 25-26 season. After the ECHL season concluded, Ivan did play 1 game in the FPHL last season with the PD Ice Cats. Kuligin will still be classified as a rookie for the 26-27 season.
Boo! He played with PD. Come on! Oh, we're gonna bust on him a little bit about that. All right, and then earlier today, Ludwig Tardif signed with the Binghamton Black Bears. Ludwig is the 6th rookie player and the 4th forward to sign ahead of the training camp this fall. Ludwig is a native of Quebec in Canada, where he has spent his entire playing career. He's a 6-foot-tall forward that shoots the puck right-handed. Tardif has spent time in juniors in the BCHL, which is the British Columbia Hockey League, the AJHL, which is the Alberta Junior Hockey League, and the MHL, which is the Manitoba Hockey League with multiple organizations. Over the last 2 full seasons, Ludwig has played 97 games, scored 44 goals, and recorded 63 assists. So very similar numbers to Ivan in his past couple seasons. So I like the fact that both of these guys in Junior A hockey have played very, very well. This would be Ludwig's first professional contract as a 22-year-old. Okay, so again, these last 2 rookies have some decent numbers. Brant seems to find these guys who either have really good numbers or the character of them is kind of high. You know what I mean, Taylor? Because they have captains and alternate captains or assistant captains. So again, if Brant comes back, it's not rebuilding. It's just plugging in players into a system, right?
Yeah, and that's, I think we're kind of so used to the way that Brant does things and the way that he's recruited people. After that first year of Fire Sherwood, I think we've kind of fallen into the system of, who he brings in and what he brings in. So I think we kind of carry high hopes of, what's going to be brought into Binghamton and the kind of players that are coming into Binghamton, that it's just not, he doesn't just bring in somebody just because, he needs to fill a spot. He's really looking for certain players and certain people that can not only fill one role, but possibly, several others in case he needs to plug him in here, because that's something that's been probably the most interesting about our roster the last couple of years is you could almost take any player and plug them into a different spot and still have them perform how you need them to in order to get that win. So I think we've kind of fallen into his recruitment process. And I think, as fans, we have really high hopes for the players that come in, even being rookies.
Totally agree with you there. So we have 6 rookies right now, 2 returning players. We have a goaltender. We have a couple defensemen. We have a full line. We could create a line right now and run it out there. So we have a D pairing, 1 full D pair. We have 1 full line, an extra forward. Might be a little tough to play a full 60 minutes, but we could probably do it, and we got a goaltender. So right now we almost have a team. We almost have a team with 8 players signed at this point. So that'd be very interesting. All right, Taylor, I think it's time. I think the fans are really going to enjoy this last 40 minutes with Connor McAnanama. Do you agree?
I definitely think so. There are some interesting comments about other players, but
you keep bringing that up.
That's definitely the funnier side. There's some comments about Dan Weber. There's some comments about Zach Sirota.
Yeah.
There's some interesting comments about Garrett Sargis.
Okay, all right. There is a
very
situation.
Serious side. You kind of get to the mental side of Connor McAnanama, and we've kind of heard the mental side from like Kyle Steffen, who he gave such an excellent interview. But there's something so different about the way Connor talks about things, and the differences between this league and the SPHL, and trying to make it in the ECHL, and just everything that goes on, and kind of the mentality of a goalie. It definitely speaks differently than the mentality of a player as a forward or a defensive-man. All
right, let's get right to it. Then we'll come back and we'll talk about that interview in just a few minutes. So when we come back right here on the Power Play Post Show, we'll have part 2 of our interview with Connor McAnanama. We'll be right back right after this, right here on the Power Play Post Show.
Hi, this is Don Biggs from the 92-93 Binghamton Rangers. Hi, this is Brandon Buczynski.
This is Grady Wittenberg, the voice of the Binghamton Senators, and you're listening to the Power Play Post Show.
Here is another Power Play Post Show interview exclusive with Bob Howard.
Were you able to coach him a little bit or talk to him a little bit going into the playoffs about, what to expect, what to try to do? Was there any of that, or were the conversations never really about stuff like that between you and Dom going into the playoffs?
I would say going into playoffs, I kind of told him, I was like, dude, look at what you've done this year. Like when you walk when you step on the ice, like it's a new season. but like show them why you won goalie of the year, right? Like show everyone else in this league why you deserve that award and why you deserve more, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like kind of come in with that, cocky / confidence sort of mentality where like, you can do it. Just go out there and play hockey. Like the end of the day, it's the same game you fell in love with when you were a kid.
Yeah.
You're just kind of playing in front of other people. And yeah, just go out there, play your game. Whenever we played or, one of us was backing up the other one, we'd always, after like the end of the period, or if we had a TV timeout where we could talk, we would always talk about, like the goals we let in or kind of stuff like that, and kind of like talk about, just bounce back and forth, like as to what we think we could have done better. And I think like that, like our relationship was great where we could tell each other anything and the other one was kind of thinking it, but like, obviously like we weren't taking it to heart where it's like, oh, this guy thinks I suck. Because obviously, neither of us think that each other suck. And I think having a real good relationship where we can kind of just bounce things back and forth off of each other,
mm-hmm.
and where we can also talk about, we can just kind of talk about whatever it is, whether it's hockey related or not in the locker room. Like if you let in we kind of did the same thing with each other. You let in a bad goal, you're kind of pissed off about it. You come back to the locker room and we kind of look at each other and we're like, you probably wish you kind of had that one back. And we kind of chuckle and be like, yep. And then we'll just move the conversation on to something else. We'll just talk about something random. So kind of one of those things where, realize what happened and then, move forward and learn from that mistake. And we just kind of had those kind of conversations throughout playoffs. And, my job as the backup there was just to make sure Dom had a, cool level head and, to make sure he had his water, he had his Gatorade, his pickle juice, all that good stuff. And, just to make sure that he was ready to go. And he did a hell of a job, obviously.
He did 100%. So CMAC, I had a conversation with Dom after the regular season or after the playoffs was over with. And he said he listened to the show and he heard me talk about, well, you have Connor McAnanama, a 2-time champion, a former MVP yourself and goalie of the year. I said, and then you have Dom, who is a rookie, and you go into the playoffs and it's probably the best goalie tandem in single A hockey. Let's even say in single A, not just in the Fed. And he said that he took that to heart and wanted to like prove me wrong, that their conversation even needed to happen. But I felt I can't have this. I cannot go into doing sports talk radio and trying to talk about the team and in some ways pump up the team, pump up the players a little bit myself without saying, listen, you have 2 great goalies. It's not an easy decision to not take a loss. Like it would have been a very easy thing to do for Brant Sherwood to go after the 5-1 loss to the Port Huron Prowlers, right? That first game back in Binghamton and go, maybe I need to go to Connor McAnanama, right? Maybe I need to bring CMAC in for that game. And nobody would have blamed him for doing that. You're a 2-time champion. You did all that. And I talked about that. And Dom heard that and he said, in a good way. And I didn't take it in a good way at first, right? Because I never want to put doubt in any of the players' minds. CMAC, you know me well. You know that I'm here for you guys. I'm always pushing for you guys. I got in an internet war because of the Watertown guys being thrown out of their places and, all the stuff that was going on in Watertown a couple years ago. I'm like, listen, this is bullshit. These owners are making all these money and you're telling me that people are stealing stuff and all that stuff. That's just garbage. So I'm always on the player side.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I know that, Bob. Otherwise I wouldn't be talking to you.
No. And Dom said to me, he goes, it drove me. He goes, I heard you talking about, this and that and, having 2 great goalies and should they, pull them and not pull them and all that stuff. And it just made me fight harder because I wanted to prove you wrong. And I was like, wow, I took that badly. And then I saw him a few days later at the arena in Scherzy's office, and he got up and he hugged me and he said, thank you. And I said, whoa, you're cool with me? He goes, no. He goes, man, what you did for me was amazing. And I I'll be honest with you, C-Mac, I was taken aback. I wouldn't have thought that a goaltender who was playing in those games would listen to my show and take anything that I said seriously or whatever. I mean, I'm just a guy behind the mic, and you guys are actually playing on the ice. And but that just showed the character of Dom, because he didn't take it badly. He took it as, I want to get motivated. I'm going to be motivated by what you're saying and win, not just for me, but for you and for everybody. And I thought that was amazing. Dom's a great guy.
And that's like honestly one of my favorite parts about Dom. He's got such a good head on his shoulders, man. He's a really good at looking and taking, I would not even necessarily criticism, but just I'm trying to think of the correct term here, but just taking things in and looking at them from both sides, from both perspectives. And that's something that I always try to work on as well. Being, an adult kind of, looking at, situations from both sides. And Dom is probably one of the best people I know at it. He's got such a good heart, and he's got such a good head on him. And I'm not surprised by that interaction at all. That's just the kind of guy Dom is. And that's why it's been an absolute pleasure playing with him.
Yeah, I can believe it. So Connor, you did decide to leave the Black Bears this year and to try to, you went to Peoria, played 6 games for the Rivermen, some really good numbers up there in Peoria, 141 and 953, and you were 4-2. It's a different game in the SPHL, a little bit more physical in front of you and whatnot. Talk about your decision to leave Binghamton, because I think there's an easy side to making that decision, but also a very tough side to make that decision to leave Binghamton, where you know what you got. You know what's probably coming, which is another championship. But for your career, what you thought was best for your career, you decided to go and play in Peoria and in the SPHL. Can you talk about that decision?
Yeah. So obviously, like the beginning of the season, like I'll be the first one to tell you that I was not on my game in Binghamton this year. And part of that was, I was having some real big confidence issues over the summer.
Wait, you had confidence issues? I mean,
well, it's tough because
it's fair.
Going from, the last 2 years in Binghamton, and then obviously like all the accolades or whatnot and playoffs, not getting a single call or any interest from any team at all after that season was really hard on me. And when the call came, it was a really tough decision for me. I obviously, didn't want to leave all my friends and everything, didn't want to leave the team, but, at the same time, it also was my 3rd year in the Fed, and I needed to find a way to break that barrier.
Sure.
And, unfortunately, like it was, right in the middle of the season, but, Dom was playing well. And we had Wyatt as well. Like in my head, I was like, all right, like we're going to be good. Like if I go for like a month or whatever until their goalie comes back from the coast, like it'll be good. Like I need a little bit of change of pace. I'm not myself. I think I just kind of need a little bit of a change of scenery at the moment. Yeah. It wasn't, no hard feelings against anybody. Like it's just kind of what I felt that I needed in the moment. And obviously like Binghamton was still in good hands with Dom and Wyatt. I had full faith in those guys. And it's just kind of one of those things where after 2.5 years, I really felt that I needed to take this opportunity. I got the call and I left for Peoria. I think, I don't know, maybe 3 hours later, something like that. Made it there for practice next day at like 10 a.m. And then obviously they have John Guy Trudell, and then Eric Levine, who was, I believe he won goalie of the year 1 year in the SP.
Yep.
And, he was a huge help to me getting kind of back into my game. Because at the time I don't know if I was on IR in Binghamton or not. I don't think I was, but I didn't play the weekend before because I was having back problems.
Yes, I do remember the back troubles that you were having. Yes.
Yeah.
At that time.
Yeah, I was having some back problems where I couldn't really rotate. I think that was just kind of due to myself honestly, it was probably just me having bad posture originally.
Gotta stop playing those video games. Those video games.
I know. Well, that's what I thought it was at first. So I stopped playing video games, and then it wasn't really helping.
No.
But I found out, I think it ended up being 3 months after it first started.
Yeah.
That I had a rib out of place.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So I was just kind of just grinding through it, I guess. I never got an x-ray or anything. But yeah, one day I think it just kind of popped back in when I was on my flight back to Peoria. It just felt like a weird, tingly sensation. And it kind of got better, slowly after that as well. But besides that, when I got there, Eric was a huge help to me, on the ice, I would say. And then we do goalie sessions every morning. We get out 10, 20 minutes before the rest of the players, do a goalie session. And then I think Guy was a huge help to me mentally.
Okay.
When I came in, the first thing he said to me was man, I'm really happy to have you here. You're a sick goalie, and I can't wait for you to get in net and show us what you can do.
So he knew of the success that you had in Binghamton.
Obviously the feds looked at it a little bit different in the SP.
I know.
So I won't really get much into that. But from what I saw, every player that came through that door, and any rookie that played their first game, including myself, in his pregame speech, he would always be like, hey, give some taps for whoever it is, the rookie, the new guy or whatever. He's going to be absolutely sick out there for us. He's going to go out there and score a goal in his first game. Just absolutely pumping their tires. And I think that was what I needed. That kind of just instilled confidence. I remember the first game that I played, he gave us a confidence speech before the game where he was like, you guys got to find what drives you. What makes you want to go out there and absolutely just want to win more than the team, on the other side of the ice. He's like, find what that is. He's like, and get that in your head that you're the best player. You are whenever I step on the ice now for a game, I'm in my head just telling myself I am the absolute best goalie to ever touch the ice tonight. Just instilling that confidence, and I kind of just approached every game I played after that with that kind of mentality where I'm going to go into this game, and no matter how my team plays, I'm going to win us this game. I'm going to do everything that I possibly can to make us win this game. And I think that was a huge turning point from myself personally this year.
Yeah.
Where I just kind of came into that game, my first game with just full confidence. And I was just kind of ready to go. That's just kind of what I was missing. Obviously, it was what I said earlier, where I was kind of in confidence issues, just kind of going into the locker room and just getting my tires kind of pumped a little bit. And then, him explaining what he would go through and his mindset before he stepped on the ice. And obviously he has games in the NHL. He's got a Calder Cup, I believe, too.
Yep.
He's been all over the place. So I kind of just, followed his lead on that. And I think it made a huge difference for me. And yeah, I absolutely, loved my time there.
Connor, I've said multiple times on this show and tried to explain to people that I personally believe, from talking to players and watching the game as much as I have, that 2/3 of this game for players, and this really speaks really heavy for goaltenders, is a mental game, right?
Mm-hmm.
Hockey IQ, mental fortitude, confidence. There's so many mental aspects to the game that people don't realize. They just look on the ice and they see somebody's, skate or rotate or go into the butterfly quick or whatever it might be. They see all the physical stuff. And I say all the time, goaltenders, in the Fed are closer to goaltenders in the NHL more so than forwards or defensemen. And the reason why is because there's less of them. There is just a speed factor, I believe. Like, I think that you probably have some of the same fundamentals as half the goaltenders in the NHL, without a doubt. You have that skill set. It's whether or not the speed factor is there, right? How quickly can you catch that puck? How quickly do you make a turn? How quickly do you make a decision? Decision making and how fast you do it is huge between playing in the Fed or playing in the NHL. It's just the way it is. But the mental game is so big. I had no idea you were having confidence issues this past season. You and I have had conversations off ice. You hit it very well for me. Your father didn't tell me. Now I'm going to have to yell at him. No, I'm just kidding. But it's something that I don't think fans truly understand, is that there is a mental aspect to the game of playing hockey. There are many facets to that mental game, and I had no idea, because you still had great numbers this year, both in Peoria and in Binghamton. Just the simple fact that you can come out and say that. Talk a little bit about the ECHL and getting up there, spending 6 games up in the ECHL, even though you did not play. What did you learn while being up there?
I'm trying to think. Like, it's such a different, like, I feel like the players look at it differently.
Okay.
Where it's weird because, so when you're in the Fed, obviously you start in the Fed and you have nowhere else to go, right? Like, it's just, you can kind of only go up from there or you're done playing hockey, sort of thing.
Sure.
I mean, obviously you can go play senior A, men's league, that kind of thing. But in the coast, a lot of those guys are signed on like AHL deals.
Yeah.
And stuff like that. So the mindset is a little bit different, I would say. Whereas, I step in, and obviously I didn't play or nothing, but I come into the locker room and I'm like looking around like, oh man, like this is sweet, like this is awesome, like everything's so cool here. I'd never been out west, so obviously like that was super cool to live in Carson City and kind of get to see all the sights and that stuff. But like to some of the guys, like it was almost kind of like the Fed to them. It was
really
weird. Yeah. Because, like a lot of those guys are like, they're all D1 guys and they played at super high levels.
And they're thinking about the AHL. They're thinking about the NHL. And you're thinking, exactly. Holy shit, I'm here. This is awesome.
Yeah. And I'm just like, oh man, I'm here to have a good time. Like this is great. Even though I'm not playing, I was like, I got a big smile on my face. Got a cool hat out of it. Got a t-shirt and a sweatshirt. So it was great. But obviously one of my old teammates from juniors also was on that team, so it was really good to go and get to see him again as well.
Nice.
But it definitely was like an eye-opening experience where like just like where like some of the guys just have such a high drive where like there's guys like lifting weights before games. The only person I've ever seen do that is Garrett Sargis.
Yep.
So
let's be honest though. Garrett Sargis lifts weights before he eats food. Garrett Sargis lifts weights probably before even having sex, for Christ's sakes. I don't know. I'm just saying that guy always lifts weights. So that's funny. I had
no comment on the second one. He's my roommate. No comment. But no, Sarge is the absolute man. I love being around that guy. But yeah, just like the training regiments,
Yeah.
And how they handle themselves, how do they handle their bodies, all that kind of stuff was kind of eye opening, obviously. Just because, I would see so many different routines. Like everyone has their own kind of routine, mindset, stuff they do before the games, that kind of thing. So it was kind of cool to just see, like the next level, obviously, and that's someplace that I want to be. And it was just kind of cool to go up, get the opportunity to see how everything's run up there, what the guys are like, kind of the level of play and everything. It was awesome. Went on a couple hikes while I was out there as well.
Yeah.
It was beautiful.
If I remember correctly, when talking to your father, you didn't get a lot of practices because of just the way the schedule was, correct? Or how many practices do you think you got in with them?
So I'm trying to think. I don't even think I skated in the morning for the first game that I backed up in, because I had also been on IR in Peoria at the time as well. So I hadn't even skated in probably almost close to 3 weeks.
Oof.
Well, like probably 2.5, 3 weeks by the time I got there. So that was definitely a little rough. But I skated like 2 or 3 times, kind of a handful of times. They didn't really do a lot of morning skates. I think they normally play like Wednesday, Friday, Saturday. So we'd get like a skate in on Thursday, and then we get, a morning skate on Friday. So yeah, I think I only skated like 3 or 4 times with the team. But yeah, it was, obviously just still good exposure, good experience. Made a bunch of good relationships up there as well. And then obviously I got to see Mathieu Boilard as well when I was up in Utah, which was it was really good to see him again. But yeah, no, it was a lot of fun for sure.
And for this upcoming season, well, you then come back, and the way I look at it, you saw the game a little bit differently, backing up for Dominic Tomei. You still win a championship. You see it a little bit differently, right? Like when you're on the ice playing in the first 2 championships, you see it one way as a player. But when you are watching through the glass and seeing it, you see things a little bit differently. And I think that players can still learn from watching sometimes. And it doesn't happen a lot in hockey, but it can. Like maybe somebody screws up, misses a practice, and they sit up in the stands in the NHL and they watch the game and they see it a little bit differently, right? They have to take notes a little bit differently about the game. Do you think that a little bit of the time off that you were kind of watching the game a little bit more this year, did you learn some things about the game that will help you get to the ECHL this upcoming season?
Well, that's the weird thing as a goalie as well, right? Is when you're not starting, like you kind of just watch anyway. Yeah. So you're pretty much watching almost, half a season of games as is. Sure. So fair enough. I feel like you're not looking at it too differently, I would say.
But you weren't the main guy going into the playoffs this year. So is there a different perspective that you have for this year's championship than maybe you did for the first 2, if that makes sense?
Can you elaborate a little more on what you mean by perspective, I guess? Just so that I'm trying to answer your question correctly.
No, that's fair. I'm not trying to dig for anything nefarious or anything like that. I just
want to make sure I answer your question correctly.
Yeah, you were the starter for those 15 games in the first 2 seasons. You were the backup. You were watching things a little bit differently. You were almost coaching in a sense, as we already previously talked. Do you think that gives you a little bit different perspective going into this upcoming season on how you want to be as a teammate, as a player, so you can get to the ECHL?
Yeah, I think I've figured out how, to do both.
Sure.
If that makes sense, be the starter, but also, how to be a backup. And I think the problem, like the tough part about being a goalie, right, is, there's two of you, but at the same time, like, it's almost harder to crack the lineup if you're the backup than you are if it's a starter. And I think some goalies, look at it as a bad thing where, they kind of want the other goalie to sort of kind of fall off a little bit so that they can get their shot, kind of thing. But obviously, I had been there. I had done that, obviously not to sound cocky or anything, but like I wanted to come back. I made the decision to come back to Binghamton and, for the end of the season. And I had that conversation with Sherwood where I was like, this is Dom's net. I just kind of wanted to be, part of it again. I wanted to be back home with all my friends, winning another championship. One of my, like, kind of the last conversation I kind of had with Key in Peoria before I left was like, look, like, there's no animosity. Like, I love that you're staying loyal to your goaltenders. I think that's absolutely amazing.
Right.
But I was like, I want to win an SB championship myself. I don't want to, just kind of be on IR or team suspension and kind of just get, like a pity ring sort of thing. Not a pity ring, obviously.
I understand what you're saying. Yeah.
Yeah, that was not a great way to put it, but
no, I totally get it. You want to be an active contributor to getting that ring. There's a difference.
Absolutely. Yeah. I want to show that I can do it myself. Not myself, but I want to show that I can do it with me in net.
Yeah.
And he totally understood that. And I was like, yeah, I just kind of want to go back and be with all the boys one last time, and, fortunately it all worked out. And, I just had an absolute blast when I came back to Binghamton. It was great to see everybody again and be back on the ice in a Black Bears uniform for sure.
C-Mac, you have a very special friendship with Dan Weber, Zach Sirota. Can you talk about those relationships that you have kind of built, even with just, even those two guys there? Because I think you're very close with those guys. And I know Josh Fletcher, when he was here, you guys were very close as well.
Oh, yeah. Fletcher and Weaves are, I think, currently on the gaming console waiting for me here. So they can wait a little longer. But, yeah, and it's been awesome the past, 3 years. Sirota coming in like a month or two into the second season. I'm going to be honest. Obviously, I know there's something wrong with Dan Weber. But I thought that there was something seriously wrong with Zach Sirota when he first showed up. He's one of those. He's one of those quiet guys.
Does he know, Connor, that I'm scared of him? I'm legit scared of Zach. He was on the show. I interviewed him, and yeah, every time I'm around him down in the corner, I'm like shaking in my boots a little bit with Zach.
So the thing is with Zach, right? Is he's very conserved, like he's very to himself at first, but it's because he's trying to read you. Like there's a lot going on in his head up there, and he's trying to get kind of and see what your personality is and kind of like how you react to things, and that's why he's so good on the ice in that rat position, right? Like he's always scheming up something that's going to piss you off, but that's not going to put him in the box. And he does it to me at home. He gets his fair share of we call it rage bait moments on me. But I remember like the first 2 days, I remember we got a call from Sherwood and be like, hey, we're putting someone else in with you. And me and Weebs are pissed. Like it better be Fletch. It better be Fletch. Unfortunately, it was not Fletch. But so Zach comes in and, like we're talking to Zach or whatever, and there'd be like moments where like we'd look at him, say something to him, and he just like wouldn't answer us. I'm like, what the heck's going on with this guy, man? Like, I was like, is he okay? And eventually, like we became closer, and we became really good friends really quick. And I brought it up to him, and I was like, yo, like, you do this? And he was like, dude, he's like, my girlfriend says that to me all the time. He's like, yeah, he's like, I'm just kind of thinking of like what's going on. He's like kind of just reading your body language and like how you talk and everything.
Mm-hmm.
And he thinks he responds, but he just doesn't. Like, and then obviously, like, you know, once he gets to know you, it's different. But he's very aware of what's going on around him. The wheels are always turning up there.
So he probably senses my fear, and as a dog normally does, probably is like, oh, I'm just gonna live off of this guy.
Yeah.
And you, before we started talking about that, you said there was something wrong with Weber. I want to know what you think is wrong with Daniel.
Oh man, let me think. Dan Weaver. I think my favorite characteristic of Dan Weaver is his ability to lose his phone, his wallet, and his keys. There'll be times where like he'll lose his wallet or I remember there was one time he lost his keys for like, I thought like it was like a good 3 or 4 days. Sorota's done this too, where they lose their keys for like a while, and I got to cart them around because they just don't have their keys. And then of course it's in like, I don't know, it's in a hoodie or something in their room. But I think Dan's obviously, he's one of my good friends, and I wouldn't be ranking on him this much if you know, I don't think he could take it. We'll get a good laugh when he listens to this.
Oh yeah.
Absolutely. But yeah, Dan's just, he's awesome. He's one of my best friends. I still talk to him every day, whether it's, you know, over the phone, playing video games, anything like that. And yeah, he's just, it's kind of like Dom. Like we've just kind of built a culture in Binghamton where if you don't fit into it, if you're not just deep down just a good guy, like you just don't fit into the locker room. And I got blessed to be with those two guys, and it's been a pleasure ever since.
Yeah, and I remember the last time I saw Josh Fletcher after the second championship, and he was like walking around with the belt and everything, and I'm like, what do you got the belt for? You're not the champ. And he looked at me and goes, I am the champ. He's like, I had the most fights this year. I was like, I guess, fine. But and he said all that with a smile on his face. Just one of the super nice guys and everything. Connor, before I let you go, talk to the fans of Binghamton. There has, since the Black Bears have come 5 years ago, the fans have only grown. The attendance has only gotten bigger, and their love for you guys has only gotten stronger and stronger and stronger. Talk about what it means to have played in front of such big crowds, have had such a love affair with the fans. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah. So one thing that, you know, like kind of, it was like right in the beginning when I started talking to Sherwood originally, was that he was like, dude, like you got to come in here. It's like our mini NHL, man. And I was like, all right. I mean, that's obviously is, you know, never playing, like not playing pro, have taken a year off. Like that's a pretty cool offer. You know what I'm saying? You know, he's like, we packed the house, and I'm like, hey, I'm just happy to play hockey, but if we get a bunch of fans and pack the house as well, like I'm all for it, you know? And, yeah, Binghamton wouldn't be the same without the fans, you know, like that's something that's known throughout the league, where when you come to Binghamton, no matter what day it is, what time it is, the weather outside, like it's going to be a packed house. Like there's going to be plenty of fans there, and it definitely gets us super fired up. You know, you'll go to a game at an away team's arena, and they got, you know, 200 people in the stands.
Isn't that crazy?
And then you show up to Binghamton, and there's 200 people, you know, in one section, and it gets you so much more juiced up for the game. When a goal goes in or you make a big save, you just feed off of it. You can feel like the energy just erupt in that place when something happens. And without the fans, like Binghamton is just not the same way. And they support us through thick and thin. Booster Club also does an amazing job. You can't leave them out of it by any means.
No.
And it's obviously Binghamton's special because of our culture and what we did in the locker room, but that also comes with, what the fans have made it. And it just comes full circle. We work hard and put the best product that we can on the ice for them, and they show up day in, day out. We got people at practices all the time. Like we feel their love and support, and Binghamton just absolutely would not be the same without you guys. So I just thank you for everything over the past 3 years, and you guys have been amazing.
The one last thing that I want to say to you is, and I told you this off air, and I want people to hear it. One of my best friends now today in my life is your father, Stephen McAnanama.
Yeah.
He and I probably talk every single day, or at least say something, or he sends me some weird ass GIF, or some weird reel. Danny's dad and I, same thing. Rick Weber, very, very close. And personally, for me, I want to thank you for being here for these last 3 years, because of you being here, I get to meet your father and your mother, who is awesome as well. 100%. Your sister, she's a little suspect. I'm just trying to figure her out. No,
we still are too.
No, Brent is great. Love her.
No, she's awesome.
A little quiet, scares me a little bit like Zach Sirota. I'm not sure why that is, but
she's scheming up there too.
Yep, exactly. That's what I figured. But I got your father out of this as a friend, and I want to thank you for that, because that for me is the treat, because whether I do this for another 10 years or not, it doesn't really matter. I have a feeling your father and I are going to be still sending stuff, and I might come out to Springfield and watch I almost said Falcons. It's crazy. They haven't been the Falcons in so long.
I still call them the Falcons. It's all right.
Good. I'm glad. But I got that out of this whole experience over the last 3 years. And that means the world to me. Because when you get into your 50s or your 60s, like your father, we don't get new friends all the time. We're not out there getting friends and you want to be my friend? You want to be my friend? No, it doesn't work that way. So for that to happen, and your dad may not say this, but I think he'll appreciate this. It means the world that because of you coming to Binghamton, one of my great friends now in life is your father. And, I want you to know that I think you already knew that we were very good friends and becoming very close and everything.
Oh yeah.
But and he has to hold back. He can't tell me everything about you. It's like you held back on me. Like there was a couple things, over the last couple of years, and I'm like, you held back, and he's like, I can't tell you everything. He is my
he always asks me like, hey, Bob asked me this. What do you want me to say? I'll be like, no, it's all right. I'll talk to him later. But hey, Bob, it goes both ways too. If without you, like Binghamton if the fans don't have all this insider information, the players love this as well. Like we all get to listen to all the other guys' stories, everything like that. So, props to you for, keeping Binghamton, rolling during the off season. And making sure everyone's aware of everything that's going on. You do a hell of a job, Bob. Okay, and
I appreciate that.
I don't know if you get that enough. I'm not saying that you don't, but I just want to make sure you hear it from me. And I know Binghamton wouldn't be the same without you either.
I didn't know you guys listened. I didn't know some of the guys did listen until LA came up to me and introduced himself. And I hadn't met him yet. He'd been on the ice. I'd seen him. And I talked to him on the show, but I hadn't met him in person. And he was scratched one game, and he comes up, and LA comes up, and he says, hey, I'm Liam Anderson. I was like, oh, hey, Liam. Hey, it's great to talk to you, LA. And he said that was the thing that he loved the most about the show, is that he would be able to listen to the player interviews and learn something about his teammates he may not have known.
Yep. Absolutely.
And when he said that to me, oh man, that meant the world to me. It meant the world to me that he would say that he thought that. And that even when he went to go play in Europe, he still listens, which is so cool. And
absolutely.
I really appreciate that. I know Austin Thompson told me once that he used to play video games and like listen to the podcast at the same time. I'm like, how can you concentrate on that? He goes, well, sometimes I'm listening to you and sometimes I'm paying attention to the video game. I'm like, all right, that's fair. At least I'm getting a little bit of watch time out of that or whatever, or listen hours. So, which is great. Connor, thank you so much. Good luck in Peoria. I hope you play some games in the ECHL this year. So make sure that happens. You just will.
I'll do my best. All right. Don't you worry, Bob.
But thank you for everything. I hope that you and I can chat again sometime in the future, and just have fun in Peoria, win that starter's position, be the number one guy there, and get yourself some games up in the ECHL. I'm ready for you to go and press some people. Okay.
All right. Thank you, Bob. I really appreciate it. Hey, don't forget to have me back on the show. All right.
Yeah.
I'll come back on again whenever you need me. All right.
Perfect. He is Connor McAnanama, and you're listening to the Power Play Post Show.
If you're a Binghamton hockey fan, then you need to check out binghamtonhockey.net for all your news, stats, information, the Binghamton Hockey Hall of Fame, top 10 lists, profiles, and so much more. That's binghamtonhockey.net. You're listening to the Power Play Post Show.
And welcome back, everybody, to the Power Play Post Show. That was Connor McAnanama, and very happy that I got the amount of time that I did with him. I think we covered a lot of things, Taylor. And, it was just one of those moments. You said this last week on the show that it felt like he could open up a little bit more and talk a little bit more. And that is clearly what he did. Any question that I asked, he definitely gave us some really good answers.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of one of the good things about, because you had talked about doing this during the season and it kind of got nullified. And I honestly think that was for the best. I think doing it in the summer and, having the ability to be more open, because I'm sure there are things that if this had happened during the season when you wanted it to, that there could have been things that weren't said or couldn't have been said or talked about. So I think this definitely had more of an openness to it and allowed him to kind of, talk more about things that were going on than just what's going on in Binghamton or what happened in Binghamton for him. And I think that's kind of the mental side of it. And, I think it speaks a lot more to, how different it is for, different players and different roles and like what's expected of you. And, I mentioned it earlier when we were talking about Brant trying to get in the ECHL and just how it's viewed so much differently. And, the way that he talked about it was, he's looking at it that it's so great to be here and it's so awesome for me. And you're looking around the room, but everybody else seems so mad because, they were in the NHL or the AHL and then they had to drop down to this level and they're not happy about it. Yeah. So it's just this whole different feeling and this whole different atmosphere where when you're playing with guys in this league or, with Binghamton, everybody's just so happy and everybody's so excited to be there and happy to play for that team and, happy to be involved and, that type of thing. So it's definitely, it kind of opens your eyes a little bit more to, a lot of these guys do want to move on to, other leagues and move up. And of course, everybody wants to make it to the NHL, but it kind of opened your eyes to show how hard it is to do that and, the steps that it requires and, what it asks of you type of thing. So I definitely, to see the serious side and to be able to talk about those things, I think definitely helps you understand the player more. But on the other end of that, you also get to see, you get the silly side where they talk about, their friends and, their roommates and, the silly things that kind of go on. And, a lot of these guys are still friends, even if they aren't playing here anymore. A lot of these guys are still friends with Fletch and he's still, when he's allowed to enter the country, he still takes the time to come visit in Binghamton and say hi to everybody. And it's one of those things that, that's truly one of the great things about what Brant has done here in Binghamton is the way that he's brought in these players is that they still make the time to come in and say hi to people, whether it's fans or players that they used to play with or anything like that. They're still coming to Binghamton because of what has been done here.
I think when you saw Fletch interact with me, I think that's when you started to see how great these players were, because I think you were a little surprised on, his interaction with me and our ability to kind of joke like we were just old friends from 25 years ago. And I think that you were like, wow. I mean, there's a relationship here because that's what we built here. I mean, I think if you walked into a room now and Scotty Romakers was there, the two of you would say hello to each other. You guys have had that conversation. You've had that relationship kind of built on that interview, and that helps. Same thing with Emerson Emery. It's something where you could go up, say hello, talk to him, ask him about his father or whatever it might be, and there's that relationship there that happens because of what we do here on the show and the interviews and things of that nature. And I'm hoping to get you on more of the interviews this upcoming season. So I think you saw that. But those are all people because Brant brought them in. Brant brought in good quality people that were, nice to talk to, and to be around and to want to talk to. And, and a lot of these players appreciate what you and I have done, which was kind of nice. Before I get some of your notes, some are silly, some are not, about the interview with C-Mac, I want to say that my conversation with him, as it revolved around Dominic Tomei, him coming back, maybe coaching and talking to Dom throughout the playoffs, I loved his candor when it came to that. I loved what he talked about. And then I shared the story with him about Dom and I having the conversation after the celebration. And, Connor just truly, gets that support, to be that friend, that coach, that support for a goaltender to do well in the playoffs like he did with Dom. And I just really enjoyed that part of the conversation as well.
Yeah, I really liked the conversation, talking about him and Dom and that whole thing that kind of went on, because that was something you were very. Your point was, I wouldn't blame Brant if he put Connor in because of what Connor's done. And not that anybody would disagree with you, but I was definitely like, it's Dom's net. Like he got us through the season. He's been the hot goalie. He's been the one here. And so you and I kind of went a little bit back and forth on that. So to kind of hear, that talked about with Connor, it definitely helps put things more into perspective and, kind of the mindset that was going on there and the way that Connor talks about things. And I think this is why, because I know it was brought up a couple times about, like Connor coaching. Mm-hmm. And I think the way that he carries himself through this interview and the way that he talks about things and the way that he mentally handles things, I truly, truly believe, like deep in my heart, that he could be a coach and he would be so excellent at it. And the way that he dealt with, the being the backup and, going to the SP and then coming back to finish the season here and letting Dom be the guy in the net and being there for him and being supportive. And the way that he talks about that and the way that the relationship that him and Dom had, mm-hmm. I think truly speaks to that, because I don't know where I could look at a goalie tandem and be like, oh, well, he wants him to mess up so he could get a shot in the net. And, that's something that gets brought up in the interview. And mm-hmm. Just the way that, like, their relationship was truly, like, it was an actual friendship. Like they were truly there for one another. They truly helped one another out. They weren't, secretly out trying to get the other one and trying to take his spot and trying to be the one, like they had to battle to be the one that gets put in the net type of thing. Like they had to compete in that sense. But as far as like, did you see anything that I could do? Is there something I could work on? The way that they were able to feed off of one another. And that's something that I picked up on really early in the season was if you went to an away game and you sat near the bench and Connor was backing up and Dominic was in net, every media timeout, every whistle where they come to the bench, you would see Dom go right over to Connor, and they spent that entire time talking to one another.
That's awesome.
Whether they were talking about the game or silly things or whatever they were talking about, but they were always talking to one another. And it was always those two.
Like when he broke his finger, he goes, dude, I think you got to go in. I broke my finger. He goes like, nah, you got this. Because Dom didn't think he was serious that he broke his finger. That was the best part. And I did see the finger. It looked pretty mangled up at one point. And I probably saw it a couple weeks after it had healed some, and it still looked kind of mangled up a little bit. So just a funny thing. I definitely appreciated that. Okay, walk me through a few of your notes.
One of the biggest things I think I picked up on was kind of, and again, this is, more on the mentality side and the mental state. And it was something that I had, I think I talked to you about it probably in the beginning of the year. And it's something that he even said was when he came in, he was kind of off his game and he couldn't quite figure out why. And, he talks about, you have 2 great seasons, you get all the accolades and you get all the, all these things, and you're, goalie of the year, and you're this and you're that, and you're the MVP and all this stuff. And everybody's hyping you up, and he didn't get a single phone call. And I remember saying to you that I wondered if, that was kind of like mentally, like he was having a hard time with that, because you watched him come in, and again, nothing against Connor or anything like that. But he was off of his game, and he says that. Yeah. And so for me, that was kind of like, well, maybe it's just something's not quite, like he's just not happy. And that's not to say that he wasn't happy playing in Binghamton, but maybe just, there was something that just wasn't clicking right. And so I think for him to talk about that and, talk about not getting a call and, kind of having that confidence issue, I think was a really big thing. And, to take that step, so to have the issue and like your confidence, but still be able to take that step to go to the SPHL, to go to Peoria. Yeah. And, he talks about, how much they helped him there and, all the things that, the change of the scenery, they were so nice to him there and everything like that. I think to have the issues that you were facing, and the mental side of it, to still take that step and still try to move forward and, take that leap, because it was quite a big leap. I mean, we found out about it pretty early or pretty late in the night. I don't remember. And, he was already driving there. Like he got the call and he left almost immediately to go out there. So I think that was a huge thing. And I think it was probably one of the greatest things to happen for him. And I'm very happy that it did happen for him that way.
Now, let's be transparent for a second. You and I talked about what we saw with Connor McAnanama in the beginning of the season multiple times privately. We did not necessarily bring it to the Power Play Post Show for a couple different reasons. But you and I both noticed that Connor wasn't playing the same way as he was in the previous couple years. And his second year, we mentioned it in the interview. I can't remember if it was part 1 or part 2, probably part 1. That second year was his best year. He had an amazing year. He was 30-3, and his numbers were outstanding. He had 4 shutouts in the regular season, 4 shutouts in the playoffs. And everything was just outstanding. And then, like you said, he didn't get a call. He didn't get even talked about. And unfortunately, that can do something. Now, I don't know if it was completely a mental thing. Maybe there were other things also going on, because sometimes your fundamentals can get off and whatnot. But Connor still played well for Binghamton this year, right? When he was in net, we still had a chance to win every single game. So I don't think it was that bad, but you and I, to be transparent, we talked about it off air a few different times, that Connor didn't seem like he was on his game like he was the season before. And I just wanted the fans to know that. We did talk about that, but we weren't going to bring it to the show because we know that players listen to the show, and we don't want to necessarily, there are sports talk topics that we want to bring to the show. But as because we're talking about goaltenders here, I didn't know Dominic Tomei was listening to all the stuff that you and I were talking about, where I was being respectful to Connor, but also respectful to Dom about who to play in the playoffs. because if I don't bring it up at all, it's disrespecting Connor McAnanama and everything that he's accomplished. Because at the end of the day, even though I'm the one bringing it up and talking about it and trying to, get conversation out of it, I knew, and I said multiple times, it's Dom's net. But I still felt like you talk about it because it's out of respect for a two-time Commissioner's Cup champion, a guy who was the goaltender of the year, MVP of the playoffs. You have to talk about it, right? And I didn't know Dom was listening. And so that's sometimes why we are careful about what we talk about. There are certain things we want to talk about and spark conversation, even amongst our fans. But at the same time, there's other things that we don't want to necessarily talk about on the air. And that's just us being transparent. We can say it now. I'll say it now all day long. And I don't think Connor would be upset with me for saying it now. You and I had our conversations about it, and we could see that something was a little off. And he admits it in the interview. And it's not like I fished for it, right, Taylor? I don't think I did. I think he brought it up himself.
Yeah, he definitely did. You kind of talk about, what made him, like the decision, to leave Binghamton, and it kind of stemmed from there. And, talking about going to Peoria and, the goalies up there, just kind of taking him under their wing type of thing. And then the funny thing is, and again, we did talk about, Connor being off, and that has definitely does not say that he was playing bad by any means. But if you compared to, what Connor had done for us the first two seasons he was with us and how the third season started, you could just tell that something was a little bit off. And that doesn't necessarily mean that his game was off. Right. You could just see that something wasn't quite clicking in, what should have been for Connor McAnanama. Because, again, we've put him on such a high pedestal that, a leaf blows by and we're paying attention to it type of thing.
Well, and I definitely have put him on that pedestal. Okay. And I'll be fair. I said all through the second season, he is the best goddamn goaltender in single A hockey, period. I was saying that. Compared to the SPHL, the FPHL, I thought there was nobody that was playing better in his second season than Connor McAnanama. That is also why you could see the difference in the third year.
And then, he talks about going to Peoria and, he was having a hard time making turns and he had a rib out of place this whole time. And you're like, oh, well, it took a change of scenery, a different place and, a 13-hour drive. And you found out you have a rib out of place. When he said that, I cringed. Like I was so uncomfortable and I don't even play hockey. And, I don't have to do all these things that the goalie has to do. And I was like so uncomfortable. And hearing a rib out of place just sounded painful. Yeah. So, you hear stuff like that and it's so much more than, oh, well, he couldn't make the save or he didn't make the save type of thing. Like there's just so much stuff going on.
I know.
I do remember when he came back, I think it was when he came back. And I remember he was sitting back up and the McAnanamas had come. I don't remember if it was just Steve or if all of them had come or not. And I remember at one point I messaged Steve during the game and I said, is it weird to see him sitting back up compared to being in net? Because that was kind of, the first two seasons you're coming to a game, Connor's going to be in net most likely. And I remember asking him if it felt differently. And he told me it was different, but that didn't necessarily mean it was a bad thing. Yeah. And I remember just kind of thinking about that for a moment because, you're so used to seeing things from one angle and now, he's behind the glass. And, that's something that you had talked to him about and asked him specifically if there was, if he had a different perspective and, the way that he just talks about things. And again, this is why I 110%, I hope that when he's done being a goalie that he becomes a coach because I truly see him doing great things. And
I wasn't trying to get anything nefarious out of him. I just, I truly believe that when a player is in the game for a long time, plays a lot, and then a coach has to bench him for whatever reason it might be, or there's an injury and he's sitting up in the stands and he's watching, it's a different perspective of how his team is playing, something that he's a part of the cog in the system to make it work. And he can look at it differently and go, oh, we're doing that there while I'm over here. I can do things a little bit differently. That's what I was looking for from Connor. Okay, so let's talk about a couple more things. I know you had you very much enjoyed the way, in some cases, he talked about Zach Sirota and, of course, Dan Weber.
Well, I can't. Every time you guys were talking about Zach, I just kind of chuckled a little bit because meeting his dad and, and every time Zach wasn't playing and you kind of look up at the skybox and he's wearing a very particular outfit. And I have this one mindset in my head and I can't not picture it. And especially the way you guys are talking about him, from being scared, the way that he studies people, the way that he just kind of looks at you but doesn't speak. I definitely have this one mindset. And then as far as Dan Weber, every time I look at him, all I can think of is like a golden retriever or like a lab. Mm-hmm. And I don't really know why that is, but it's just, I have this like picture of him, and that's the, the kind of energy that I get off of him is just him being like this extremely silly kind of personality. And, and maybe it's just because I've met his dad. I don't really know. Well, his dad, I feel like him and his dad are probably this very similar, when it comes to personalities and, the way that they are. But I really enjoyed kind of the way they talked about that. I'm not going to talk about the Sargis thing. I'm going to avoid that one.
Really? Wow. We're not going to bring it up.
I don't think it needs to be brought up. I really.
Okay.
I mean, all I'll say is, with the comment earlier about, Brant hoping that Sargis and Stubbs comes back. I know Jeremy's very excited about that.
Okay.
He's probably the biggest Sargis fan that I know. Don't come at me if you're a big Sargis fan, but Jeremy's he came in and all he wants him to do is get in a fight. And I know that's something that everybody else wants to. And Brant's like, he doesn't really fight. And you did the interview and you go, he's not really, like, the way he talks is not really going to fight. But that's something Jeremy's definitely waiting on. And I think he kind of gets the satisfaction when somebody runs into him and he doesn't move, and they do. I think he kind of gets the slight satisfaction from that. And then again, you guys talked about Fletcher too, and mm-hmm. I truly appreciate that because, you had talked about, that's kind of the first sight that I got to kind of like these guys being actual people. Yeah. And you weren't wrong about that. That's kind of the first time that I kind of got to see that side of, the arena and, these guys outside of the skates is, kind of what happened between you and Fletcher. And even him knowing my name definitely took me back at that moment because I wasn't expecting it. Yep. And I still don't expect it. I still kind of get taken back when, players know my name. And even like when Q we went there for practice and he yelled up if that was me. And I was like, taken back because I'm not used to people knowing who I am, especially when it comes to the players. And I think that's kind of like, I've put the players on like a celebrity pedestal. Like, to me, that's what they are. They're here they're doing a certain job and like, that's what they are. And then, to hear the interviews and to see this other side of them just kind of makes them this whole person, and you kind of get to put it all together. And it's definitely, something that I never thought I'd get to see the side of. And it's definitely kind of, I don't want to say it's changed my life, but it's definitely changed like my view and perspective on some certain things. Mm-hmm. And it's definitely been very interesting. And I definitely look forward to doing it more in this next season.
Yeah, absolutely. Is there anything else from the McAnanama interview you want to mention?
Probably just kind of about the end there. You definitely, it's not so much about Connor as much as it is the McAnanamas in general. Kind of Connor coming here got us to meet the McAnanamas. And I mean, really, Steve got all of this put into motion. So without Connor, none of that would have happened. So as much as you're thankful for, Brant bringing Connor in here and what Connor's done for us the last couple seasons, I'm definitely really appreciative of that. I have a great friendship with, Steve McAnanama. I don't think I talk to him nearly as much as you do. I did the first year. I think the first year I spent like the entire summer talking to him. And then, we've gotten a little bit less and less as the years has gone on. Not a bad thing or anything like that.
Well, you get we have our.
I think I talked his ear off that first summer, and then I've gotten a little more quiet since then.
We have our group chat that you're still 100% involved in. Matter of fact, you're the last person to say anything in the group chat right now at 3:59 p.m. today, actually. So. You're very active in that chat, and I think the friendship is pretty strong. And we do have to thank Steven for, bringing the two of us together to do this show the way we did. I think easily, I can honestly say this, in the amount of years that I've done the show, 15 years, and we're almost to the end of season 15. Season 16 will start in a few weeks in August, which will be very cool. I can honestly say you are the best. I really appreciate everybody who's done the show with me. I really, truly, truly, truly do. I've had some great people do this show, but I don't think anybody's put the amount of effort into doing the show and being a part of the Power Play Post Show brand as much as you have. And I so very much appreciate that. And I have to honestly say that the friendship that you and I have with Stephen McAnanama is a big part of that, which is very cool. And I did want to mention that to Connor. I want Connor to know that, and I've said this to Dan Weber as well, right? Without Dan Weber, I wouldn't have the friendship with Rick Weber where I can be sarcastic. I could say whatever I want to him, and he'll just laugh his ass off. He can do the same with me, and it's just a great relationship that I have with the two of them, which is phenomenal. And, and when we talk about it, some of the families have been some of the best parts of this whole damn ride. The Shankars are freaking phenomenal, great to talk to, and I appreciate them listening. I appreciate all the people that listen to the Power Play Post Show. But every once in a while, we kind of get lucky, and we get to meet some really cool people doing this, which is very awesome. Liam Anderson, who was on the first championship run, he listens to the show, and that's so very awesome. And he still kind of likes some of the stuff on Instagram when he sees me talking about some of these players, because he was one of the first guys. Liam Anderson was one of the first guys to come up to me and say, "Hey, I'm LA. I listen to the show. I listen to the interviews so I can hear about my brothers that I play on the ice with." I just was floored by that when he did that the one time, which was very cool. So I don't know, Taylor, anything else?
No, I think we about covered it. I'm sure we'll get our message from Steve at 1 a.m. or whenever this airs. I'm sure his message won't be too far behind that. But
I do want to bring up one more thing. Connor McAnanama's Fed rights were traded to Danbury from Fresno. And so with hat tricks, will he play there? No, he's probably not going to play there. Fans, we can tell you, if you've lasted this long in the Power Play Post Show, he's not going to play for the Danbury Hat Tricks. He's going to play with Peoria. He wants to win that number one position. I think he'll do that. And then he wants to play in ECHL. If he comes back, if he somehow, for some reason, some way gets released by whatchamacallit, I don't think he's
Peoria.
Peoria. I don't think he's going to come back to the Fed. I think he'll get picked up by another SPHL team, and he'll go there. But if he did, now you have to understand something. He's not going to report by November 30th like you have to. He'll get suspended by the league. Maybe they could lift that if another team wants him in the Fed. But the only two teams he's going to play for ever would be Binghamton, and I think Mid-South. I think he'd go to Mid-South. Kirkby's there. He likes Kirkby a lot. I'm sure he gets along with the other guys that are there from Binghamton as well. So those are the only two teams he would play for in the Fed. Now, fans, I do want to mention, hopefully we'll know something about a schedule. If we do find out about the schedule, Taylor and I will probably put something together and bring it to you so we can talk about the schedule, pick it apart a little bit, give it our pluses, give it our negatives, whatever we have to do. We'll bring you all that information. It could be this week at some point, which means we might do a Sunday show if we find out on Friday that the schedule is released and we need to talk about it. Or it could be next week. We'll see. I know I said I was taking time off this summer. Apparently, I've gone back on that a little bit, but we'll still take more time off later on in the summer as well. But These are important things that we want to talk about with you, the fans, the best fans any podcast team could ever have. So, okay, I'm done. Am I done? I think I'm done. Am I done?
I don't know. I honestly
never know when I'm done.
Probably going to be upset with me for saying this. But I truthfully hope that for some reason Connor has to play in Danbury, just because I want to see the look on Herm's face when he goes there.
Oh yeah, because I think wasn't it Herm that somebody yelled at Herm? Yes. Was it Connor that yelled at Herm and said?
No, so Connor didn't yell at him. I don't think I've ever seen Connor yell. So it was a Danbury game. We were there, and Brant wasn't allowed to be on the bench.
Yeah.
Shocker. And so he was up in the stands with Connor, who was also not dressed for that game.
That's right.
Connor was, the bodyguard position, because that's exactly what he looked like. He literally stood in between Brant and Herm. It was hysterical. And it's over. Everybody's trying to leave, and Herm and Brant are, yapping at each other. And Connor got in between them, and somebody, I don't know if it was Herm exactly or somebody standing next to Herm that was a player that wasn't playing in that game, had said something to Connor about not beating them. And the look on Connor's face was priceless. And he pretty much just told him how many times he has beaten them. And I was just like, it clicked right there for me that I'm like, they have no idea that they're talking to the Connor McAnanama. And I was like, they're going to be real shocked when they figure that out.
Yeah.
So it was definitely a priceless moment for me. So that's kind of the only reason I would have, just because I want to see the look on their face. But
when they realize
in my opinion, at this rate, he's just trade bait.
Yeah.
If something happens and he could come back and play before, the deadline or whatever it is, that they know they know where he's going to play and who he wants. It's kind of like the Don situation.
Yeah, 100%.
It's definitely trade bait. They're using it as, oh, well, if you guys want him that badly, who can you give us type of thing.
Exactly.
That's all.
Exactly. I agree 100%. Taylor, thank you very much. All right. The Power Play Post is available on all major podcast platforms, including Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Pocket Casts, YouTube, Amazon Music, and iHeartRadio. Join the conversation on Facebook. Search for Power Play Post Show and become part of our community. Looking for everything Binghamton hockey? Visit binghamtonhockey.net. Your go-to source for history, stats, and all things Binghamton hockey. Thank you to Rob Lapolis for MC, John Petitucci, our musical director, and 3-time Commissioner's Cup champion goaltender, Connor McAnanama. I am Bob Howard. She is
Taylor Welch.
And we'll talk to you guys next time right here on the Power Play Post Show.
Thanks for listening to this edition of the Power Play Post Show. Be sure to tune in next week to the Box Studios Radio Network for all the latest Black Bears news and interviews from around minor league hockey. The Power Play Post Show would like to thank John Patitucci for all the music you hear on the show. You've been listening to the Power Play Post Show.